We are a podcast for product marketers and B2B SaaS who feel misunderstood of what they do.
From someone who truly gets what you do and
basically help you feel less like a misfit, being unignorable in your role.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to another illustrious episode of We're Not Marketers. This is Zach Roberts on the line, the sales waterwag. We've got a fire guest for you guys. And I know every episode I say this, but this is a forest fire. But before we introduce the flame that will never be extinguished, let's pass it off to our co-host here, kicking off with Eric.
goes, "We got a fire guest today." And I was like, "Hey, yeah, we do." What's up? Merrick Holland, Franken manager of the group. Gab, pass it to you.
Thank you. Gab Bujour, Sales Deck Associate. Je do Sales Deck until I die. I'll pass it back to Zach.
All right, team. This next guest we got on the mic right now. Look, I asked her so many questions about how to build my fractional business. At one point, I was like, look, we just got to bring you onto the show because she's going to drop some major knowledge on y'all. If you're in-house and you need to know about your bottom of the funnel strategy and you don't even know what bottom of the funnel is, we're going to put you on the top with the advice that she's going to drop on you guys today. She is a content strategy advisor for 9 different organizations. I don't know how she does it, like being the absolute boss of authority plug. Ladies and gentlemen, love to introduce Lashay Lewis to the show. Lashay, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a minute now because I came across you guys a little bit ago and I'm like, oh, they're a vibe. I like them. So this is a long time coming. I'm so excited to drop hopefully some gems on your audience. I don't like to gas myself up too much, but hopefully they'll find some value from it.
I'm like, gems or infinity stones? Either way.
Hey. Yes.
Because we about to go to battle right now, and not quite like that, but there's this, Lashay, you got to know there's a question that we always ask each guest. Okay. And depending on the answer that you give, we're either going to be best friends or best enemies. Just kidding, but
oh boy,
we're raising the stakes. This conversation, we're going to raise the stakes right now. Gab, okay. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear that. Lashay, are product marketers actually marketers? Why or why not?
Oh boy, can I say yes or no?
We had one guest. One guest did play both sides of the fence.
I feel like I have to play the field on this one because, first of all, I feel like, and I know you guys go by the thing like we're not marketers, but the reason I feel like a lot of product marketers feel like they're not marketers is because people don't make them feel like that. They're very underutilized, very underappreciated. When you guys are actually the key to a lot of things that the marketing team needs to do, and you are key to a lot of unlocks that we don't, that we need on the marketing team, right? So it's like, on one hand, I could see where you're like, yeah, we're not marketers, but on the other hand, I'm like, we need y'all. So,
Oh, there we go. That's the only answer we need. End of season. We can just clip that soundbite and play it every day. Every day.
We need you guys.
We need you. He's done.
Marketers don't want to admit it, but I'm here to speak for all the other content marketers. Like, we need product marketers, and you guys are not appreciated enough. So, want to put that out there.
Obvious question to that is, why do you feel like you need us? Other than some cool T-shirts that we hand out at random marketing shows we show up to.
First of all, the T-shirts are fire. Don't try to diminish that. But outside of the amazing merch, the reason that we need you guys is because you guys are the closest to the product, right? You guys see it in a different point of view than we do, different positioning than we do. You guys are I want to say outside of the actual customers using the product, you guys are the closest to it. You know what I mean? So it's different things that the marketing team needs, you guys have access to. So if I need to know about a specific capability, if I need to know about, okay, how does this specific capability solve this pain point? You guys have access to that information. I don't. And the reason I don't is because a lot of times teams are siloed, right? So the product marketers only talk to the product marketers. It's like cliques in high school, right? Like jocks only talk to jocks, and then the prissy girls only talk to the prissy girls, and then you got the group that I would be in, like the free spirit group of like quote weirdos. You know what I mean? It's when in actuality it should be cross-functional communication across these teams. So me as a content marketer should be talking to you guys as product marketers and understanding the product. How do you view it? What does the competitive landscape look like? What is our competition doing? You know what I mean? And that's not how it is in-house right now. It's very siloed. Yeah.
What's really cool about your response, I got to call this out, from a content marketing perspective, I feel you get the most succinct answer of what we do as product marketers, because as a reality, we're like the only team that has to do an internal roadshow to describe what we do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure why that is, but that's just the reason behind it. That's all I wanted to say.
No, totally. And again, it's like, it wasn't until I started consulting that I understood the importance of product marketers, because it's not like in house they were going to tell me. Again, right? The siloed communication is just like, you guys are just over here off doing God knows what, because I didn't know what you guys did at the time. I'm like, okay, you're labeled as a product marketer, but at the same time, you guys do so much more than that. And I believe if people understood how important the function is, marketing would go much further. It's so much important internal collateral that you guys create, that you have access to, that we need in order to be able to effectively talk about the product, to make people say, "Oh, this capability does solve my pain point," right? Or this competitor compared to you guys are better with this specific use case because of XYZ capability. You know what I mean? So it's, to me, you guys are just underutilized. And it's like, again, I didn't realize until I started consulting, and then I started having to be the liaison for the different teams, like so sales and CS and product and marketing. And it was like, once I would get you guys in on a call, I'm like, whoa, they have a shitload of information I actually need. So then I started getting a little closer to the product marketers, started to understand their function and what it is that they did and why it was important that I needed that information for my marketing material. Yeah.
Clarify question real quick. Oh, go for it.
I was just going to say my cup is full right now.
It's good. I'm so
Words
sorry.
of affirmation. My words of affirmation is overflowing.
But yo, Lashay, what were you doing in-house when you were writing all these fire blogs? Product marketers were still there, no?
Yeah, but it was like it wasn't a culture of communication, right? It was just like, I'm in my own little world. I talked to my writers because I was like managing the writing team and things like that. And it's like I had access to some internal collateral, but again, and I've seen this with consulting as well. It's once I pull everybody into one room and I'm like, okay, do you guys have ICP documentation? And they're like, we do, but I think this person on this team has it. We don't have it. And I'm like, huh. And it started to give me a different point of view of what it was, almost like looking at myself in third person, right? So sometimes when you're in first person, you think about, and this is weird that I'm relating it to this, but I used to hate first person shooter games like Call of Duty, Rainbow Six. I used to hate it because I'm like, I need to see from third person how I'm shooting Gears of War style, right? That's what I need. But it's like, when you step outside of that and you're able to look at a team just from the outside looking in, you're like, holy shit, they really don't communicate with each other. And it's like, all the information that I need sits within different teams. There's no one specific team that all of this information sits within. So that's when the light bulb went off for me. I'm like, oh, companies aren't communicating with one another. That's why they're having what I call the bottom of funnel gap. Because bottom of funnel, so I don't know about other marketers, but for me specifically as a content marketer, positioning myself around bottom of funnel content, I need product marketing information. Bottom of funnel is like a healthy blend between content marketing and product marketing.
Yeah, that's. I've only worked with 2 content marketers, formally, but both situations, that's by far the one thing they're like, I need your help with bottom of funnel content. I can't figure it out. We've been trying to crack that. And I totally agree with you. I feel like that's that perfect intersection of like where we can appreciate each other. And
It's like,
because similar to, I don't got those channel chops.
yeah,
Definitely a lot of times, like the creative aspect is lacking, particularly in product marketers. They're a little bit more logical.
yeah.
And so I love having that camaraderie like you just laid out with the content team.
It's important not just for like camaraderie purposes, of course, but also just for the overall marketing initiatives. The main objective with bottom of funnel content is to be able to drive a conversion. If you ask Taz this, she'll say no, consumption. And I totally agree, but it's a way I kind of position things. It's like they've been through the buyer's journey, right? They've been through the top of the funnel, they've been through middle of funnel. Also, side note, product marketers are also amazing for middle of funnel content because middle funnel is more demonstrational, where I have to show how the product works contextually in somebody's workflow. Nobody can do that better than you guys. Rant over. So when we get to bottom of funnel, like the main objective is to be able to drive that conversion, and it's teams bottom of funnel content don't convert because the knowledge level of the reader is higher than the knowledge level of the writer. Right? So when you have that gap, it's like when somebody comes to a bottom of funnel article, they can almost smell if you don't know what you're talking about. And it's, again, nobody knows the product better than, in my opinion, maybe somebody else might feel different, but to me, you guys are next to the product all day long. Nobody knows the intricacies of the product better than the product marketers. So I'm like, okay, if I'm talking to a prospect and they have these 3 or 4 pain points, okay, what are the capabilities that solve these pain points? Because then we need to inject that into the article, right? I'm not going to get that information from sales because they're not into the product the way you guys are. So that's like how I look at things. But again, people might feel different, but it's that main objective is to drive conversions. And it's the person that's looking at a bottom of funnel article is already like problem aware, they're solution aware, they know, they have a good idea of what they're looking for. They don't want a bunch of fluffy bullshit, like, quite frankly. So when you think about top of funnel, you're like, okay, more brand awareness, more thought leadership style content. But the knowledge level of somebody that's at a top of funnel article is way lower than somebody that's bottom of funnel. So you can get away with hiring freelancers and people that might not know much about the topic, because as content marketers, I'm gonna let you guys in on something real quick. As content marketers, the way we're taught to write a lot of the time is to look for a keyword, make sure it has search volume, and then you go to Google and you pull the top 10 results, and then you condense those results and twist it around and make it your own. And that's an article. And it's like, you could, I don't agree with it. I don't think you should do this, but you can get away with it from a top of funnel perspective. But bottom of funnel, you just cannot get away with that. It's like every product is different. You and somebody else has like different differentiators. It's like you want to lean into those when you talk about your product. It's like you just cannot get away with the same stuff with bottom of funnel as you can with top of funnel. And I think that's where people go wrong a lot of the time.
Clarifying question for you. I'll go for it.
I was just about to keep going in that direction, but I feel like it's even more important when you're working with a technical product, right? Because if it's a definition and then you're top of the funnel, again, you can get away with it. But when you're the PMM and oftentimes you're the subject matter expert, if you're working with a content marketer and you're unable to translate, hey, this is exactly what we're trying to do, either middle or bottom of the funnel, you will just lose all of your reputation, right? If you're a technical product, but then your article feels like it's written by someone who doesn't understand at all the tech, the intricacies, and you're unable to showcase what's the experience and what's the proof on how they can go from stage 1 to stage 2.
Yes.
I feel like it's just a big recipe for disaster a little bit.
I totally agree. I think this is even more prevalent with technical products. You can't expect for a freelance writer with no knowledge, prior knowledge on the topic, let alone the product, right? To come in and be able to write this highly technical content that speaks to somebody that's been in this field for 15 years and is now, because, and here's the thing, somebody looking for a solution, right? They're looking at bottom of funnel. 9 times out of 10, they've been tasked with somebody like, so maybe like a higher up or something like that. They've been tasked to go find a solution. And now they're in the research phase of trying to find that solution. And if you are not specific with them, if you do not get into detail about the features of and I know some people are like, oh God, no, I don't mean feature dump. Understand the specific pain points of that specific persona that you're talking to, and then get granular with what features you talk about, the capability of those features, how they tie back to the pain points. It's not going to work. I've had quite a few engagements at this point where it's like they have bottom of funnel content, but the agency that they chose to get it done by did not do a deep dive into the product and to understand, okay, who's the persona we're talking to and how do we solve their problems? And Gabe, how you said, how do we get from step 1, have our product be the bridge to step 2, right? So that's the gap that I see. And like when I consult with companies, that's the gap that I attempt to try to fill. Yeah.
Are being missed in that bottom of the funnel gap that creates this issue? I'm curious.
That's a great question. So there are a ton of different questions. Let me do this really quick. So I'm going to pull up a LinkedIn post that I did, and it was a Venn diagram of all of the questions that, not all, but most of the questions that you should ask each team when you're trying to create bottom of funnel content. Again, because not one team does not hold everything, right? So for example, with the sales team, you want to ask which prospects are buying the solution, what are their most common pain points, what's the most common title of the person buying. Again, nobody's going to know this better than sales because they're talking to them every single day, right? When it comes to the product team, it's what are the capabilities of the product? Who are we competing with from a feature level? How does the product fit contextually into the customer's workflow, right? So that's what you want to ask product. Again, for another example, customer success. Who are the largest accounts? Who do we view as our best customers? Because ideally you'd want to get more of those. And what customers have a low support headache, right? So again, these are all questions that you need to ask, but the answers will come from within different teams. We can probably plug this sometime later in the show, but I do have a free dashboard with like over 30 questions that you should ask each individual team in order to get the info you need for bottom of funnel. I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want people to like try to remember this, but I have a dashboard that has all those questions in it. Yeah.
It will be in the show notes. We'll add it.
In the show notes.
In the show notes, y'all.
Incredible stuff. So I'm curious, like, how did you build this niche expertise on bottom of the funnel strategy? Because this is, I'm just gonna stop there. I want to hear more from you.
You want the long story or the short story?
Before you answer, I have to ask another question. Is that a question you've already been asked before on other podcasts?
I've got it dialed down now. Yes. So I've been asked a little
Zach,
bit
we failed.
We
failed, Zach.
Wait,
We asked her a repeat question.
Not
No.
that specific way, though. He positioned it differently. That's how I know y'all product marketers, because the way he positioned it was different than how other people asked me that question.
We're
Trying to
sneaky.
make a long story short, right? So I started building websites at 15. I would build these little affiliate sites, and the links would go over to Amazon. And every time somebody came to a site, they read one of my reviews and they went to Amazon and purchased the product, and I would get like a small 3% commission, whatever, like that. The thought that I could have an idea and turn that idea into something concrete fueled me. It was just like, oh my God, like this is, I feel like a superhero. Like I could just think of something and then make it tangible and get money from it. I was literally obsessed at that point. Funny enough, I was working in e-commerce before I started working in B2B SaaS. Fun fact, I used to hate B2B SaaS. I was like, God, this is boring. It's confusing. How do people do this? But for some reason, I tend to like challenges. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I could do this thing. And across working for different agencies and things like that, first of all, I seen how they were running their businesses and I hated it. So I was like, I'm going to do this bottom of funnel thing, but I'm going to do it exact opposite of how agencies do it. So for example, at agencies, you'll have the founders sell you, and I'm not trying to talk shit about agencies. I say this every pod I go on where I'm not talking shit, but I'm talking shit. The founders will sell you, they'll sell it, but then once they get the account, they'll hand it off to a junior. And I know because I used to be that junior that I got handed off to, right? So it's with me, I always vowed to, even if I'm not working on the client account as far as like the manual labor. So for context, I'll run the strategy for the accounts, that's all me, but the writing, I'll subcontract the writing. More context on that, I have frameworks that I've come up with all this stuff. Funny enough, those frameworks were the affiliate thing helped me start to put that together, and that's why I started building that muscle, because I used to, when I would build the sites, I would build them in Elementor and create frameworks so I wouldn't have to keep doing the thing over and over. I just press upload template. But I wind up doing it for SaaS, and I started training in-house teams on how to put these frameworks together, right? But I think the beauty in that is I'm not starting from a blank page, right? So that was, and I talk about this in a few other pods too, of like leaning into your weaknesses. So for me, writing was a big weakness. It still is. I need to work on it, but it's like starting from a template helped me like curve that weakness a little bit. But the thing that I used to do in-house, which is bottom of funnel, I felt wasn't very appreciated. And my thought was like, okay, if I can do this in-house, can I step out and do it on a consulting basis? Will people actually pay me to do this very specific, hyper niche thing? And the answer is yes, they will. So for anybody that's thinking, can I ever be a consultant? If you go on LinkedIn and you type in your role, if you see open positions around that role, 9 times out of 10, somebody will pay you to do the same thing on a consulting basis.
I started off the project, started building this expertise in my role, and then that subtle aha moment of, wait, I can do this for myself and charge a premium. So so I want to ask like a similar question, deeper level on that, is that for, let's say now you're a product marketer, you have this little side hustle now, let's say that you're doing market research and you're working full time. Like, when I'm curious for yourself, when you were at that stage when you're like, I could do this, was it an easy decision? Was there a criteria that you were looking at of being like, if I hit these 3 buckets, I'm like deuce, pink slip, out the door? What was that like? I'm curious, like, how did you make that switch over, and what was your thought process at the time when you did that?
Yeah, so I left my actual 9 to 5 August the 4th of 2023. And it was a tricky decision because I really love that job. Like, they gave me so much autonomy. My manager was amazing. Funny story, some months before that, so like in March, I got let go of a second job that I had got. And the reason I had got that job was because I couldn't break past 75K a year. And I'm like, God, what do I have to do to get past this? And it starts to take a toll on you after a little while, because you're like, okay, I know I'm good at this thing that I do. Why can't I get paid more than a specific number? What the hell is the issue? So I'm like, okay, I got to get 2 jobs. That was the first time I made, technically, I didn't work the whole year because I got let go maybe 2 or 3 months after that because I hated the job so fucking much. But that's the first job. I loved it. It was difficult to let it go. But also the reason that it was not difficult to let it go was because it didn't take a lot for me on the consulting end to override what I was making at the 9 to 5, if that makes sense, right? So if I was making like, consultancy started like 1 client, then 2 clients, then 3 clients, and I'm like, okay, I'm making like 10 grand a month now. I'm making more than I make at my job. But I try to come to things with a very logical mind. I try not to be too emotional about it, and I try to say, okay, does this make sense for me to leave the stability and go full force into this thing? Because my brain is like, what if all 3 clients drop off next month? Right? Like, I'm just thinking like worst possible scenario. So it was a difficult decision in that regard. But what I will say is the month that I left, I jumped from 10 to 30. So if anybody's okay, I got this full-time thing and I'm working on the consultancy thing. And I believe that jump happened because I was able to take the focus from the 9 to 5 and put it all in to the consultancy, like how the back end processes work, more frameworks, more selling, more posting. So it's like the energy that I was putting into the 9 to 5, as comfy as it was, it's like I had to pull that back and put it into the consultancy. And that's when everything started to look different and jumps were being made. So I'm like, it was a difficult decision because I had an amazing job, but it was not a difficult decision from the money aspect because I spent a lot of my 20s broke. So it was like, for me, I'm like, shit, this is the most money I've ever made in my life. It wasn't a difficult decision from that standpoint, but to leave people I really liked, yes. So I guess the answer would be like, yes and no. Yeah, but it wasn't too difficult. Yeah.
When you do that number 30K, I'll be like, not for me either.
I love what you said on that part when, it's a difficult decision to leave. You start making some money, but you're leaving instability, you're leaving everything. But I feel like when it's on the sideline, when it's a side hustle, yes, you're spending time on it. But when it's the only thing you're doing, everything becomes a lot clearer, kind of, right? It's your obsession. You're always thinking about it. You're always trying to find new ways on how to improve it. You need to let go a little bit and just jump to get there. But I feel like it's a very important decision to take. You have to be honest with yourself. But when you are, this is when you can put the pedal to the metal and just get it.
I can't agree more. And I've got 4 kids, right? So like that played a role into it where I'm like, like stability, I gotta leave that. But it was like, it was the best thing I could have ever did for my kids. It was the best thing I could have ever did for me. So it was like, I'm not telling everybody to make that jump, but you'll feel it when you're like, okay, I probably need to make this jump. You'll just see the momentum, like pipeline will be piping, and like you'll see those signals that'll make you be like, okay, let me take this jump. And let me say this too. Since I did make that jump, if I were to ever go back in-house, I'd be walking back in a totally different individual, right? So I left in-house very like insecure and just not knowing my worth and, a lot of like internal things going on. If I ever went back in-house, I would have a very hard bottom line where I'm like, I'm not taking anything under this salary. And it's like, why? Because I have a public portfolio. I've worked for a dozen companies, you know what I mean? Like I've got systems and processes, and I got a brand and all these things. And I was saying on LinkedIn the other day, I was like, it used to be a point where I would see job postings and it would say 100+ applicants. And I'd be like, damn, like I'm not even applying for this shit. Like I'm not going to get it, right? Like what makes me any different than the other 99 applicants? But now I feel like if I were to go and apply for a job with 100 other applicants, I have a fighting chance at getting that. And that's all because of building a personal brand. Like if I did not do that, if I did not put myself on public display daily, I would not have the confidence to be able to not only ask for a higher salary, but to even apply for the jobs in the first place. So it's more than one benefit of leaving in-house. Even if you ever decide to go back, you're going back much more postured. I've learned so much more than I ever did in-house being a consultant. So it's like, it's just so many upsides. It's just hard to encapsulate in words, but it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Yeah.
Well, I know I'll even raise my hand here. Like there's a general fear of jumping out of the plane. And when I got to see your amazing speech at Drive, you dropped a bar, if you remember. And if you're cool with sharing it, I'd love everyone to hear it because it was one of those things that you hear. It doesn't leave you really for as long as you want it to leave you. And
Eric, she dropped multiple bars. There were like gold bars.
I think I know which one he's talking about, though.
Yeah.
I've literally had 2 other people bring this up to me over the past 3 days.
All right,
bet.
I don't know.
Bet.
I could be wrong. Don't.
Bet. I hope it wasn't on a podcast, but bet. I
Y'all
want
just gotta
everyone to
release this
hear
one
it.
quicker.
Listeners,
All right.
I want Zach to hear it. I want Gab to hear it. I even want to rehear it again. Go ahead.
I could be I hope it's the right one. Okay. The pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain of change. And the example I gave at Drive was like everything from weight loss to self-esteem to everything. This has been a consistent motto across my entire life, right? So it's while I was scared to make that jump, the pain of not making the money that I want to make was more painful than potentially making hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That's how I looked at it. Like the pain of not being able to take my kids where I wanted to take them. You know what I mean? Just, and sometimes like you gotta let it encapsulate you, because the thing, that's what got me to make the jump. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's like when you hit that breaking point, that's when everything moves. It's literally like the world will contour to help you out. It's so strange. And I'm not like trying to do like the manifestation thing right now, but I'm like, it's crazy how it works, right? It's like everything, and I said this on God, I'm recycling lines, but everything that you ever wanted is on the other side of the thing you're most afraid of. I was afraid of getting on podcasts. I was afraid of stepping out in the public light. I was afraid of all these things. And of course it comes from past trauma and stuff like that. But it's the longer you let that shit hold you down, the longer it's going to take for you to rise up. You just got to walk into it, walk into the purpose and know, yes, I've been through these things. I got some battle scars, but they will heal. The scars will still be there, but they're not going to, you know what I mean? They're not going to hold me back. And I'm going to, have the full circle moment. So to me, a full circle moment is almost like some people might call this immature, but I love this shit. It's like a, aha, I got you type of moment. It's like, I fucking told you so, that I was going to do this and be that, and you didn't believe me. And you know what? It's like, I live for those full circle moments. An example of a full circle moment real quick. Before I got on Exit 5, I had pitched maybe like 10 or 12 other podcast hosts. Not you guys. No shade. Not y'all. I had pitched 10 to 12 other podcast hosts, and everybody was like, no, and maybe 6-8 months down the line, and we're queued up, and this and this and that. I'm like, damn. Then it starts to get in my head a little bit. Damn, like maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And then I pitch Dave. Dave tells me yes, the episode goes viral, whatever. The same people that told me no to being on before swung back around and was like, oh, we would love to have you on the show. Full circle moments like that, but on a grander scale, is what I've been dealing with for the past 2 years, and I live for it. So it's, if for nothing else, just understand, like, when you walk through being scared, you will have those full circle moments, and I swear it makes everything so worth it.
Oh, I'm so hyped for you. Yeah, like hearing that piece right there. Like it energizes me. Lashay, there's something you said here earlier, and you spoke about the manifestation, and I want to check that real quick because I think there's a lot of power into it, and the undercurrent of what you've been talking about here is about mindset. I'm curious to like hear more about that, like from when you started consulting to where you're at right now. What was the information that you were feeding your mindset to grow into the person you are right now, to have claimed those opportunities? Because I think that is like a blind spot for a lot of us that are considering fractional work, is that mindset piece.
Momentum is everything. So do the thing, do it scared, do it walking into the unknown, not knowing what to expect, and then you'll see a little win. Oh, like somebody liked my post and I had a lead. They weren't qualified, but somebody reached out to me. Don't undercut your wins, even if it's the smallest one, because momentum is something dangerous when you get it on your side, right? So it's like me, I started, nobody knew who the hell I was. Like I just posting, I had so much anxiety about posting. If you have anxiety about posting, my recommendation is to post. Exposure therapy, right? So the thing that you're afraid of doing, do the thing over and over and over. You will not be afraid to do it any longer. But when you have momentum, don't take your foot off the gas, right? Keep going. If you see that your posts are getting more impressions or something more specific, something more like quantitative or something, understand those wins and process them and use that to keep you going. It needs to be like an infinity loop, right? Like boom, like you use the momentum to keep you going. When you keep going, you get more momentum. Use the momentum to keep you going. And you keep doing that over and over. And what happens is before you know it, your whole life has turned around. I struggled for 15 years. It took me 6 months to change my whole life because of that way of thinking. Micro action. So I did it every day. There was no tomorrow. I'm like, oh God, I got to make this work right now. But macro patience, understanding like, okay, I work like it's got to happen tomorrow, but the patience is it's not going to happen for another 6 months to a year. And psyching yourself out like that helps so much. And I just kept myself in that mindset of I have to do the thing every single day. You just take it one day at a time. And that sounds so damn cliche, but when you take it one day at a time and understand every little thing you do is creating something for you down the line, you might not see it yet, and that's okay. You're not gonna see everything. We're not omnipresent and we're not God. We don't know everything, but everything that you do is going to have a cause and effect later on down the line, right? And you just have to understand that, and you have to like walk in that, know that. And the more that happens, again, that momentum starts to pick up and you start feeling yourself a little bit. Then you got a supportive community. I don't care how much people make fun of LinkedIn. I'm like, LinkedIn has supported me more than my own family half the time, right? So I'm like, respectfully, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, for anybody that doesn't like the whole LinkedIn thing, seriously, because I'm just like, it changed my entire life. So it's like, anytime I can be that to another person, what I needed somebody to be for me, I take that opportunity every day of the week. But it's like, you just gotta like micro action and macro patience. Yeah.
That was my therapy for the day. That was good shit. How you feeling,
It's
Lashay?
it's basically like you want to have those micro bursts of energy when you, as you said, you work as if there was no tomorrow, but you have to understand that it's going to take longer than expected, right? Practice your patience, practice your resilience, because like things might happen with the momentum, but that doesn't mean that everything will fall within your planned timing.
Right. 100%.
Oh, cool. Lashay, we're going to need everyone to find you once they listen to this episode. So other than going to find your LinkedIn, because we know that you love that, what else you got cooking? Anything you want to let people know? And where else can they just come and keep up with what you're up to?
I'm a nerd, right? I'm on LinkedIn all day, more than I should be. But no, what I got cooking right now is at least scaling the consultancy. That's the next step, and I'm afraid to do it. But like I said earlier, I eat my own food and do it afraid. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's like what's brewing right now. But honestly, it's like I am on other social medias, but y'all don't wanna. I'm not trying to put y'all on Instagram and with the flexing and all that. You guys, I know people listening to this want to learn something, right? So, okay, follow me on LinkedIn, right? I know you're like, oh, we know. But seriously, like I drop some what I hope to be really valuable and good stuff. I do it in visual form because I'm a very visual learner. Shout out to Rob Kaminsky, Anthony Pieri. I first learned the whole product marketing thing from them and the visualization. I drop a lot of visuals relating to content marketing, a lot of content strategy, mental models, and things like that. But yeah, if anybody wants to holla at me, the DMs are open. Say what's up. I'm on LinkedIn more days than I should be.
Well, Lashay, brace yourself for another 12 podcast invites after this episode drops because and if you need any help facilitating those invitations, I'm more than happy to be your EA on your behalf.
Well,
And we
thank
can
you so.
and but it's been an absolute pleasure, Lashay, to have you on the show. And we're so excited we can make this happen. And we're more happy that we made the cut because
What you mean, make that?
well, because you were talking about all these invites you've been getting for other podcasts.
Of
I
course,
imagine.
I'm coming. First of all, This has been brewing for us. This wasn't an overnight thing. We talked about this months ago, so y'all been on my radar for a minute. I'm just happy that this is able to finally happen. We're able to get this out to people, and because hopefully it touches somebody that it needs to touch. Hopefully. Yeah.
Facts. Y'all, again, Lashay, thank you for joining us. This is another episode of We're Not Marketers. We're signing out.
Thank you for listening to We're Not Marketers. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, review our podcast, and share this episode with other PMMs. Thanks again, and see you soon.